Yo, good afternoon. Sorry we're late. My apologies. Had some computer issues. I had to restart everything to make sure that we would be good to go and not run into any trouble here. But we're here. We're here. Happy Wednesday. There's the best thing about baseball is that we get these day slates and then we get night slates on top of that. So glad you guys could join. I don't know what happened earlier. I think there was something, just a scheduling issue as far as like this at 11 o'clock strategy show and not 12 o'clock live before lock. But yeah, we are here. So appreciate you guys' patience. And it's time to talk some baseball. 4-game slate, pretty interesting pitching. If you don't mind, take a single second. Atone for your sins this fine afternoon. What is it, 12:06? Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel. It's free to do so. 100% free to hit the thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment. Actually, you're not going to do that. It's a live before lock show. There's zero shelf life on this. But yeah, man, let's get into it. We got 4 games. We got plenty of time to break all this down. So we are not in any real rush here. It is one of these interesting slates, though, where I just ran the Sims and got a lot of Luis Ortiz. Now, I don't know where you guys stand on this, but to me, I don't feel that comfortable with that much. Now, it's possible that we update this and things begin to look differently within the last hour before lock. Jay, no co-host today. We will have one once NBA starts winding down. I just decided that I would do some baseball because otherwise we wouldn't have any early baseball shows at all. So better than nothing, brother. But no, there's something to be said about this spot where you're getting a 5K starting pitcher that has a respectable strikeout rate. And in the top pitchers tool, we actually have him with a 23% top 2 pitcher probability. You know, you look at this 4-game slate, and I can pull this up as well. Hold on one second. Actually, let's do it this way. You look at this 4-game slate, and from an implied total standpoint for all of these teams, Yankees are the highest, but then you've got Detroit against Kyle Hart. You have Miami against Brady Singer, 5.5. Look at this though. Cincy against Sandy Alcantara, 4.4. And then look at some of these. San Diego against Olson, 4.1. Yankees against Carlos Rodon, 4. The Phillies, who have just been outright awful recently, particularly in this series, and an injury to Christopher Sanchez yesterday makes matters even worse. 4-run implied total against Peterson. And then the Mets at 3.7 against Wheeler. The thing is, are we paying $11K for Wheeler today? I personally don't think that Wheeler, despite being the highest, along with Carlos Rodon, highest top 2 pitcher probability play on the slate, I still don't know that he's the best play. And when I ran the Sims, got 29% Zach Wheeler, which is perfectly reasonable. I've watched his strikeout rate come down throughout the day across all of these sports books significantly. This morning, matter of fact, I bet the under at 7.5. It is sitting at 6.5 now. Clearly under 6.5 is juiced, or over 6.5 is juiced, but you've seen that K prop come down on Wheeler. It's not the best matchup. It's good hitting weather. He is an elite pitcher on a 4-game slate. There's no doubt about that. I would anticipate we're all going to have some of him. But is this at 11K a spot where you jam Zach Wheeler? I'm not sure it is. Genuinely not sure it is. And he's coming off this 13 strikeout performance, just dominant performance against Miami, right? 13 Ks across 7 2-run innings. Zach Wheeler is going to be popular today. You're talking upwards of 50% in some contests. So then the question becomes, well, where do we place a lot of our pitching exposure? There's one guy that actually stands out to me. And I was using, you guys can, decide to take whatever process you'd like. I was using the betting market today, just to get my own bets in. And one thing I noticed was Reese Olson strikeout overs got steamed heavy. I mean, pretty heavy. I don't know if that's an indicator of whether or not we should be playing him, but it's 7,500 against the San Diego lineup. I mean, the San Diego team's dealing with a lot of injuries right now. You look at this San Diego lineup. Of course, you have Fernando Tatis, you have Manny Machado, you have Xander Bogaerts. Look at the rest of this lineup. Gavin Sheets, Ornelas, Oscar Gonzalez, Jose Iglesias, Tyler Wade, and Martin Maldonado. That's, I mean, yeah, you have to navigate around a couple good hitters, and it's not the highest strikeout rate, collective strikeout rate in this offense, but they have a low total today, right? Like this Padres team dealing with significant and substantial amount of injuries, they've got a pretty low total. The game total has dropped from 8.5 to 8. The San Diego Padres total in some spots is their implied total is sub 4. So is Reese Olson somebody that's not getting enough attention right now? 20% ownership on a 4-game slate. I think you could argue that. Look on DraftKings, the San Diego Padres team total, 3.5, over 3.5 and under 3.5 are both at minus 115. So Olson stands out to me as a really interesting $7,500 player. You have Sandy Alcantara, who is another one of these guys getting similar ownership, right? It's Brady Singer, Sandy Alcantara, Reese Olson, all in that 20% ownership range. But Sandy here has not had the most illustrious start to the season. And this is a guy that most of us would have, regarded as solid. It has not been there. Not only has he been getting crushed, right? Philly smoked him. He didn't last more than 2 innings. Washington, he was, I guess you could say, modestly respectable, not from a fantasy standpoint, but he had 1 strikeout in back-to-back games. Against the Mets, he was okay. And against Pittsburgh, again, he couldn't get through 5 innings. It took him 91 pitches to get 4 2/3. So there's a lot of serious question marks here. Wheeler's 11K. Reese Olson, all of his props keep moving towards the overs as far as strikeouts go, as far as total pitching outs go. And we know that the betting market is tied really closely to DFS, right? Like we can use that as guidance for sure. Then you got a 9K Brady Singer and a $5,300 Kyle Hart. I think Kyle Hart here is probably one of those guys, he's got a 3.5 strikeout prop, probably one of those guys that you don't have to focus too much on here. But if you were to ask me, like, how am I distributing exposures across all of these guys? I think so many of them look similar. And at Wheeler's 11K price point, I'm not trying to get super overweight there either. I mean, I'll talk to you guys about it too, because we got the chat right here. Are we, I agree, local Danker, saying the pitching situation's brutal. I mean, we've seen worse on a 4-game slate. There's no doubt about it. There are some good arms here. It's just, I don't know if there's anything that stands out like Chris Bubich did yesterday, right? Like yesterday you saw that spot and we got 80% of him when we ran the Sims on the strategy show. You saw that spot and it was kind of just a very obvious, oh, okay, yeah, he's the guy today. I don't know if there's he's the guy today. Carlos Rodon's strikeout stuff has been spectacular. So there's that. David Peterson's been very good. Does it last? I don't know. I think it's entirely possible that he's just a good pitcher, but are we looking to pay this much for him? Philly has some real issues from strikeout standpoint too. Like we saw, who was it? Tyler McGill 2 days ago, go out there and just mow him down. In 22 innings, 4 starts this season, Peterson's got a 28% K rate. The numbers on this guy just look good. I mean, you're talking about a high ground ball rate, a solid strikeout rate, not a ton of swinging strikes, but he's been good. I have no problem getting to Peterson here. The issue, and I want your guys' thoughts, this is what I was getting to. The issue is, what do we do with a 5K Luis Ortiz? Because the field's not getting to him, but the Sims right now are saying that he is the best leverage play on the slate. I look at it a couple of ways. He could absolutely, without question, be a quality pitcher at 5K today. Good enough strikeout stuff. And if you look at him in Fangraphs, you have to do Luis L. Ortiz. Otherwise, he won't show up. I think you could probably still get, and you guys obviously play this however you want. 4 starts this season. He hasn't been particularly good. Like a 3.76 xFIP is fine. His xERA is a lot better than his ERA itself. So you could argue he's been a little bit unlucky here, but not really when you look at strand rate and BABIP. They're exactly where they should be from a league average standpoint. The difference is that he's got a 25% K rate. So, yeah, Ram, you could be right. So here's how I see it. If we do view him because of the strikeout stuff at a 5K price point as a positively leveraged pitcher, I think you could probably still just go in and limit your, like, cap his exposure and still get over the field to him. Like, you could come in here and be like, all right, look, I understand that this is a good spot. I really don't want more than, let's go just 27% for the sake of the argument of saying we get 3x the field on Luis Ortiz. If you do that, you're still getting well above the field on Ortiz, but now you're not dependent on a 5K pitcher with a near, 6 ERA with no real indications that he's been that unlucky against the New York Yankees. All right. And it's not like the Yankees are running out a seriously watered down lineup today either. If that was the case, I'd be looking at this differently, but you got some damn good bats in that lineup. Right. And it's not like the weather either. It's 70 degrees. Wind's blowing out at 4 miles per hour to center. That means nothing, but 70 degrees. It's great baseball weather. Perfectly reasonable hitting weather. So if you bring him down to 27, you get more Carlos Rodon, you get more David Peterson, and you get more Reese Olson, which I like. I like getting more Reese Olson today. And Sandy Alcantara, he hasn't been good, but at 7,300, I think we've seen his price come down enough to where it's viable. But 70% Luis Ortiz, come back and I could be just flat out wrong. That seems like a lot. And yeah, Steven, I know, man, he's got a 25% K rate. We can pull it up here. The 5.5 K prop is very good. Let's see if I need to put L in here or something for it to work. I could actually just go to, here we go. Let's see, use the old OddsShopper, trust the OddsShopper tool to get us where we need to go. 5.5 K prop for a 5K pitcher is highly unusual. You don't get that all that often, which is why he's going to be viable. Here you go. Let's see. Ortiz over 5.5 Ks. I'm not going to use an exchange here as a good example of this as in NoVig. So if you're looking at some of these other books, Circa has over 5.5 at plus 115. Bet Chris, another, sharp odds plus 114. All of this suggests that at 5K, Ortiz is still a good play, right? All of this does. But also, let's at least provide some context. He's minus 130 to allow over 2.5 runs, so 3+ runs. And to throw more than 5 innings, he is plus 148, minus 160 to go under 5 1/3 innings. But in the same breath, if you're talking like, all right, well, 5 Ks, 5 innings, 3 runs, does that get you there at 5K? Probably. Shit, I'm talking myself into more Luis Ortiz as we do the show. Brandjoy, sounds like we should play Ortiz and stack against him in the same lineup. Yeah, we don't want to do that, but I for sure understand what you're saying. The argument here on a 4-gamer, it's not like a 2-gamer where you might actually play 2 hitters against your pitcher or something. The argument here would just be that maybe Luis Ortiz is a better leverage play than we think for one very simple reason. The ownership here is very low. 10% on a 5K pitcher on a 4-game slate. Yeah. 10% on a 5K pitcher on a 4-game slate. Steven says it's less Ortiz than also being right about what bats you get to pay up for. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, that's just DFS in general, right? So like, it's less about Zach Wheeler and more about nailing which bats you pay down for. It's all the same thing. But the Sims in this instance are saying that the Ortiz lineups, a lot of them with Carlos Rodon, look at that. The top 3 simmed lineups are all Rodon and Ortiz. Wheeler, Ortiz. What it's really suggesting here, if I had to guess, just from, kind of cursory look, is the expensive pitcher paired with Ortiz seems like the optimal approach. That's what it looks like. And then you get Detroit against Hart. In this one, you actually get Mets, 2-man Mets stack. In this one, San Diego against Olson, and then another Mets. In this one, Detroit and San Diego. And then a bunch of 4-man Cleveland stacks as well against Carlos Rodon. Really interesting. Like there's no clear top stack here. Let's see what our stack exposure looks like. Five-man stacks aren't as high today, but still a decent amount on a 4-gamer. Steven said, I was mostly meaning Ortiz cannot or likely will not win you a tournament. Yeah, maybe not. I mean, not really though. If a 10% Ortiz happened to have like a 5-inning, 1-run, 6-strikeout game, that could easily position you really nicely. Especially if Wheeler's own, that's why it's so tough to look at this stuff in a vacuum. Because like, oh yeah, what if Ortiz has 20? All right. What if Wheeler and Rodon both have 35 and Reese Olson has 28 and Sandy Alcantara has 29, right? But what if Luis Ortiz has 15 and no other pitcher has more than like 23? You know what I mean? It doesn't, if you look at it from that perspective, everything needs added context. So it doesn't really matter in a vacuum what Ortiz does. He could have a decent game, as a matter of fact, and only have 15, and your bats go insane. Now you got to expensive bats, and it was alongside Carlos Rodon, who shut down the Cleveland Guardians. Right? So, I mean, that's how I look at it. Feel free to approach it however you want. Miami, 10 against Singer, 3-stack exposure. We have a lot of 3-man Yankees against Luis Ortiz, a lot of 3-man Detroit, and that's basically it. For our 4-man stack exposures, we have very little. It looks like we're getting mostly 5 or 3-mans. Makes sense. Detroit at 5%, Miami at 5%. So a lot of Detroit and Miami thus far. What about for 5-man stacks? Are we getting Detroit and Miami again? Yeah. So Miami and Detroit by far are most exposed stacks. I pulled this up for you guys before we started the show. Just created a custom player report in Fangraphs for the pitchers that are on this specific slate. And if you're looking at K rates, there's a few that really stand out, right? Sandy Alcantara, Kyle Hart, very low this year. This is going back to 2024. Luis Ortiz definitely getting more of that this year. David Peterson, Reese Olson. Peterson's K rate is up. Olson's just been pretty much like a career league average strikeout guy. Brady, Singer, and then Rodon and Wheeler clearly among the top. Take a look at just 2025 here. Do we got just 2025? Let's see. There we go. Perfect. All right. So if we're talking about just from a stack perspective, the one guy that has been coughing up pretty significant power is Kyle Hart. You look at him through his first 4 starts. He's allowed 4 home runs and 16 innings pitched because he's not getting super deep into these games. He's been bad, well under a strikeout per inning. This is a guy that is very much worth targeting against today. 4.9 run implied total for Detroit. If there's one pitcher that I'm just really not likely to get to, it's going to be Kyle Hart. Reese Olson, though, this is the guy, once again, coming back to this. He's and going back to last year too, does a phenomenal job of limiting power, which helps against the top of that order in San Diego a lot. Walk rate is a problem. So if Reese Olson's walking guys, that's where he's going to get into trouble, and he's not going to be able to work efficiently through a game. Billy, one off, Judge or Tatis? I'd probably go Judge here. Let's see what we're getting in the Sims. Just individual player exposures. I don't look at this all this often, but sometimes it's helpful. Yeah, okay. So we have 38 on 150 lineups. We have 38% Aaron Judge, and we have 35% Ortiz. Or I'm sorry, Fernando Tatis. Ram, what if you're starting Ortiz, still Judge? No, probably not. I don't think it's the most insane thing if you had like Aaron Judge against Ortiz, and certainly not many people are going to do that, especially if you're automating your process with Sims or an optimizer or something like that, and you have rules set in place. But the reason I would say Tatis is because we're getting very similar owners or exposure to these guys, almost identical exposure, and we have positive leverage on Fernando Tatis, right? So the ownership we've got projected in this pool run, in this Sims run, around 16%, whereas Judge is 30%. So I think both of them are super viable here. So is even Juan Soto, in a spot where a lot of people aren't going to want to lock in Juan Soto in a difficult matchup either. Pretty interesting outfield position, because you've got three really expensive guys as our three highest exposed outside of a $3,300 Jesus Sanchez against Brady Singer. But you know what else is funny? When you start to look, let's scroll these positions for a second so we can work through this. Yeah, I had a feeling. All right, so not cheap, but $4,400 Xavier Edwards we're getting a lot of against Singer. And then Elliott, 6K is our second most exposed. Lindor at 5K, third most at shortstop. This should give us a really solid kind of view of the landscape of how these lineups are shaping up if you're building right now by hand or using the Sims. Jose Ramirez, 5,500, and Manny Machado, two most exposed pitchers. Because we're getting so much of this cheap pitching as well to pair with a Carlos Rodon, particularly, and also Wheeler. And then even here, you're getting to expensive bats. Even Torres isn't super cheap at 4,300. Jazz is 48, and Matt McClain against Sandy Alcantara is $5,300. We got 15% of him. I mean, is there any position that we're truly paying down at? Really, first base, probably catcher too. Not even really catcher. You know, slotting Ben Rice in there, 4,300, 31%. Yeah. So whoever asked, should we be, or kind of said in jest, should we be stacking Yankees against Luis Ortiz? I'd say no, but also Yankee stacks look more than reasonable today as well. And right now the Sims are saying, and the data is saying, that your best way to get exposure to the Yankees, because yeah, we have 4% 5-man stack exposure, but that's under the field because we're over the field on Ortiz, would be to get to the 3-man Yankee stacks. So we can do this, and let's actually look to see what our Yankee stacks look like. This is the really helpful stuff. So not just, hey, we have this much Yankees or we have this much that. We want to see what the stack looks like itself. Otherwise, what good is it doing us? Let's find the 3-man Yankee. All right, here we go. 3-man Yankee stack is Ben Rice, Jazz Chisholm, and Aaron Judge. Another 3-man Yankee, Ben Rice, Jazz Chisholm, and who am I missing? Bellinger. Ben Rice, Paul Goldschmidt, Aaron Judge. And these aren't bad looking lineups either. 5-man Yankee, we know what that's going to be. Here's another 3-man Yankee stack. David Peterson, Sandy Alcantara with Oh, that's an interesting one. So there's actually a couple of these with Austin Wells in there as well. So Austin Wells in at the catcher spot with Jazz and Aaron Judge. So yeah, and a lot of them, because you're getting expensive bats. Look, Reese Olson, Sandy Alcantara, 2 7K pitchers. David Peterson, Kyle Hart. Carlos Rodon, Sandy Alcantara. David Peterson, Carlos Rodon. That one's actually more expensive, but it's a 5-2 Miami because Miami is one of the cheaper stacks on the slate. If you pull up the top stacks tool, right? Let me see if it updated for us. You can not only just see the top stack probability and the leverage score and the team total on all of that stuff, but you can see the value score. And the value score is going to be super important. So top values coming in on Miami. Look, 22% top value score on Miami. That shouldn't surprise anybody. 18% on Detroit. Not a super expensive team. I wasn't surprised we weren't getting to a lot of Philly. As a matter of fact, did I even mention? I don't think I did. Did we mention one Philly player? I don't think we did. I don't think we mentioned a single Philly player when we were going through exposures here. And I'm not shocked by it, especially given that they're relatively popular. We have them as a negatively leveraged stack. Actually, second lowest stack score of any team are the Philadelphia Phillies, behind or ahead of only the Mets. The Yankees are the team for sure, at least just based on everything I'm seeing within the tools, that if you are paying a premium for a team and you're not getting the best value, Yankees right here. 8% value score is manageable. Even though they're popular, only slight negative leverage and still the third best top stack score. So yeah, Yankees and Luis Ortiz. And that's not a flaw in the data either. That's exactly how it should be. Luis Ortiz is $5,000 with a 5.5 strikeout prop, albeit juiced to the under, but still $5,000 with a strikeout prop you typically never see. You want to put it in perspective, Kyle Hart has a 3.5 strikeout prop today. Barely juiced to the over last time I looked. And he's more expensive than Ortiz. Right? So that kind of puts us on the right track, I think. Are you guys getting the Brady Singer? Are we? Is Brady Singer a viable option today against Miami? You know, they have a 4.5 run implied total. We clearly have a lot of Miami stacks within the sims, within the tools. Is Brady Singer viable at $9,000? It feels like he's kind of a casualty of the slate. And what I mean by that is, you know, you have an 8K Carlos Rodon, which is pretty wild because Carlos Rodon, from a strikeout perspective, has been remarkable this year. 7, 5, 8, 8, and 9 strikeouts through his first 5 starts. And a couple of them against teams that simply do not strike out at a high clip. He's had a couple games where he's imploded because his walk rate has been wildly out of control. But aside from that, Carlos Rodon should not be an 8K pitcher based on where some of these other guys are. So I understand that fully, why he would be, you know, the highest percentage top 2 pitcher today. But Brady Singer is the one that surprises me a little bit. I would have thought we'd get a little bit more of him, honestly. It's still Miami. Miami's not nearly as bad as they once were, but they're also not a juggernaut, you know, and you've got this game being played in a more than manageable park for a pitcher. Brady Singer's not bad at all. Like, Brady Singer's a good pitcher, and he proved that last season for sure. Even last year, 22% K rate. This year, through his first, 4 or 5 starts, 27% K rate. Yeah, it's a little bit surprising to me. Especially given that Miami's not an unowned team, but I'll let the I'll let the tools do the work for us. I'll let the tools make the call here. If Miami looks like the leverage spot, then we can do it. We can absolutely do it. Yeah, Sandy is a lot cheaper. There's no doubt about that. The difference between Sandy Alcantara and Brady Singer in the same game is that Sandy just hasn't been able to get any strikeouts. You know, that's like, even going back, if we were to go back to last year, how many innings did he pitch last year? There's something wrong with this 2024 and 2025. Either way, this season through his first 4 starts, 17% K rate, getting knocked around a bit, 13% walk rate. I don't know. I'm not convinced. BD, I'm not saying Miami's terrible. That's what I'm getting at. Like, I think Miami's a reasonable team. But I also think Brady Singer's pretty good. The one guy I'm probably going to artificially get over the field on is Reese Olson. That'll probably be the guy, honestly. Just from everything I've seen in the betting market today. If it works against me, so be it. But Carlos Rodon at 8K, just given the strikeout stuff alone, I think it's going to be difficult to get away from him. Cleveland's the type of team that can cause some problems. There's no doubt about that. We all know that. Right? And they're a type of team that, you know, doesn't strike out at just the highest clip, but this season it is higher than it's been in the past, which is encouraging. They don't walk at the highest clip either. Look, 18th against lefties this year. Only 242 plate appearances, but still, you know, pretty average. 300 WOBA. All of those numbers are a team that's 98 WRC plus, pretty average. So Carlos Rodon, David Peterson too. I hate to be this guy, but I honestly think that right now picking on the Phillies is not the worst idea. Like, they can come out and have an offensive eruption, surely, with the bats that they have in that stable up top, like Turner, Harper, Schwarber. When Castellanos decides that he's interested in hitting, of course. Real Muto. Baum's been terrible. You know, the back half of this lineup is not great at all. Edmundo Sosa, Weston Wilson, Yohan Rojas, Alec Bohm, even Real Muto. Peterson get through the top of that order, he could have smooth sailing every time he faces the back end. So I don't think pitching's actually as bad as it may have appeared on the surface. I think all of these guys are viable outside of Kyle Hart not really being a great play, and then Brady Singer too. I thought I'd get a little more, but at 9K, again, I think what's happening is you're just going to end up getting to a lot more Carlos Rodon, a lot more David Peterson, and then you're going to get below Brady Singer again with guys like Sandy Alcantara and Reese Olson, and then super cheap with Luis Ortiz. He feels like a casualty of the slate, just simply a guy that is there and he's okay, but he doesn't stand out at 9K and isn't necessarily worth that price point. Yeah. Josh Gillen, what's up, Josh? Are the tools hammering Ortiz because he's 5K and it's better to fit in more studs? Yeah, I actually I don't know if you just jumped in, Josh, but I just went over our exposures to these individual bats in the last Sims run I did. And of course, I will run it one more time before I build lineups, and I would suggest everybody else does the same. But yeah, if you look at the exposures, almost every position outside of first base, our highest exposed guys are pay up options, in the 5K range, in the 6K range, even in that mid to high 4K range. So these lineups are pretty chock full of good bats. Yeah. Yep. Oh, guys, how could I forget? I think you'll enjoy this. And then we'll get into a couple more bats here before we go. So plenty of you know Jorge, who's always in chat. Always gifting like 50 memberships at a time here to the YouTube channel. He won 50K the other day, and he hit me up in the DMs and he's like, yo, I gift a lot of subs, but I want to give something back to you guys. And I want to give something back to the viewers because, you know, what these tools have done for me over the years. So he said, what I'd like to do, totally 100% his idea. So make sure to shout him out because Jorge's the man and he's as altruistic as they get. He's looking out for people. He's like, I want to give away 5 MLB Sims Max packages. That totals almost $900. Just out of the kindness of his heart. He's like, I want to give out 5 Sims Max packages to whoever. We'll do a drawing. We'll do a giveaway. Right? And, right. And I said, yeah, we'll make it work. Let me get back to you in a couple days. So here's what we're going to do. Simplest. Actually, this is going to doubly benefit all of you guys. We're calling it the Jorge Sims Max giveaway. All you have to do is sign up for a Portfolio EV 2-week trial. Yes, not a 1 week. You're getting 2 free weeks with this if you've never signed up before, right? So use the tools. Please use them. I promise they will change the way you do things, and they will absolutely help the way that you play DFS because now you can buoy some of those tough losses in volatile stretches. Sign up with the link down below, and when you check out with a weekly sub and use code Jorge, okay? You're going to get 2 free weeks. That's a half a month free with code Jorge when you check out, when you sign up for a weekly sub. If you're a new user, you're getting the 1 week free trial plus another week on top of that, 100% free. If you've already tried Portfolio EV, but you want to, I got you, Garth. Hold on. If you already tried Portfolio EV, but you want to get in on this as well, use Jorge and you'll still get 1 free week. Okay. And if you're already an active Portfolio EV user, just email a screenshot of your active sub to support at OddsShopper.com. So all of you guys can be involved in this. 5 Sims Max MLB. That's $175 a piece. Almost $900. Shout out straight to Jorge. This was his idea and he wanted to give back to the community. And we will choose 5 of those users on Friday to get those $175 value. We'll do it Friday on NBA Live Before Lock. All you got to do is use code Jorge when you sign up over at OddsShopper, and you're getting 2 free weeks. You're getting 2 free weeks anyway. The last thing I'll say, make sure to do this because it's just you're double dipping and potentially getting a free MLB Sims Max, but already getting great betting tools. Make sure to use these tools, guys. Even if you're dabbling on $1 bets, make sure to use these tools. Make sure to at least try them. If you're there's no point of just letting an active sub sit. You might end up loving it and you might end up making money. So shout out to Jorge. If you're in chat, let him know we appreciate him. Use Jorge with that link down below for OddsShopper. Get 2 free weeks. If you're already a user, just email us your active sub and you'll be included in the drawing. And if you've been here before, but you're not active, do it anyway with Jorge and you'll get a free week regardless. So everybody can get involved. Everybody can get involved. We appreciate you. We love you, Jorge, and we appreciate this. Almost $900 in Sims Max packages. And on top of it, you're all getting a free week or free 2 weeks to Portfolio EV, which has made us, many of us, a shitload of money over the past several months. So yeah, win, win, win. Use code Jorge, links down there, and we'll draw the winner on Friday. I'm excited about this. All right. So one more time on the stack exposures before we jump. I want to finish building my lineups too, and we don't need a full hour plus for a slate like this. Detroit with the highest implied total, along with the Yankees today. The wildest thing is that you're getting Ortiz and you are also getting Yankees. And I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense. But the highest top stack probabilities using the top stacks tool, Yankees against Ortiz, although Ortiz has the highest leverage of any pitcher on the slate. Detroit against Kyle Hart, Cincy against Sandy Alcantara, and Miami against Brady Singer. But there's no one stack that doesn't have some viability. The reason Philly's not showing up is because they're exorbitantly priced against David Peterson. And my guess, let me go back to the top stacks or our stack exposure here. Where is it? Stack exposure. Yeah, look, no Philly, basically no Philly, and basically no Mets. So if you walk away from the show and you're building lineups out, we already know where we stand on pitching. And for hitters, Miami, Detroit, Cincinnati, all of them look pretty good. And then you've got this collective group of like San Diego, Cleveland, and the Yankees, where Yankees 3-mans look really good, but not as much 4 and 5-mans, probably a cost prohibitive issue. And then a little bit of Cleveland against Rodon as well. Whereas we're hoping, I mean, really in this case, we're hoping for a low scoring Mets and Phillies game, because otherwise it's going to end up biting us. So yeah, that's what we got, baby. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. We'll be back here tomorrow. Josh actually may join me on Live Before Lock, because we'll have another Live Before Lock. We got 4 games today. I think we broke it down in 45 minutes as much as we possibly could. There's not much more to go over at this point. With 4 games, you're really playing in an ownership game in a big way, right? Especially given how under-owned or over-owned some of these pitchers or stacks are. And then we'll come back tomorrow. We will celebrate, or we will commiserate. Shout out one more time to Jorge for gifting these. Make sure to just take a single second. You know what? Build your lineups, wait till the games start, and then jump back in, click that link, use Jorge, get your 2 weeks, or get your week, or hit us up an email if you're already a sub, and we'll draw them. We'll give away 5 MLB Sims Max subs on Friday night Live Before Lock for NBA. Yeah, that's what we'll do. Anyway, good luck today, guys. We will see you back here tomorrow, Live Before Lock, and then Friday strategy show. MLB main slate Live Before Lock tonight, regular time. We'll see you there. Peace.